Hello everyone, a warm welcome to all of you in the today's session on EduTap, in which we are going to cover the most important summits and conferences for the RBI Grade B Officer Exam 2023. So guys, we all know that many questions are being asked from the summits and conferences in all the exams, and when I talk about the RBI Grade B Officer exam, then once again these important summits and conferences are really very important from the exam point of view. So guys, if I'm audible and visible to all of you are requested to give a thumbs up in the comment section so that we can begin this particular session. So guys, I request all of you. So I can see here the responses from the people here. So guys, once again a warm welcome to all of you in the today's session. So let's begin the session. Before beginning this session guys, I am having a very important announcement for all of you that we at EduTap are providing the comprehensive guidebook to all the aspirants of the RBI Grade B Officer exam. So when I talk about these guidebooks provides you the definitive answers that pops up in your mind as an aspirant regarding the exam. So it can be about the body in which you are targeting to enter. It can be about the exam, like what is the detailed syllabus, what is the eligibility criteria, and it can also be about the preparation, and also the most important thing that these are the MCQs. So every important information about this has been mentioned in this particular guidebooks. So guys, what are you waiting for? Kindly download this beautiful guidebooks from the link given in the description of this particular session. So guys, now let's get back to this particular session. So guys, we all know that today we will be covering the most important summits and conferences. So जब भी हम बात करते हैं summits and conferences की, we all know that India has recently got the presidency of G20, and that is the reason the very first thing that we are going to cover in the today's session is the G20. So guys, we all know that India has received the presidency of G20. So guys, in this session we will be covering all the important details, that what exactly the G20 is, what are the different members of the G20, how G20 basically happened, how it was created, and apart from that, what are the other different details, the other important summit details which held under the India's G20 presidency. So guys, let me tell you that when I talk about the G20, in 1997 there was a Asian financial crisis, and after the Asian financial crisis, a particular forum was being created for the finance ministers and the central bank governors, and this particular forum was basically the G20. And guys, apart from that, when I talk about this G20, the G20 was basically formed in 1999. So guys, it was formed in year 1999, and you can see here that after the Asian financial crisis, a forum for the finance ministers and the central bank governors was being created. When I talk about this forum was basically considering only for the international economic cooperation. This was one of the major block for the international economic cooperation. But we all know that after this financial crisis, there was another bigger level financial crisis which happened to the world economy. And what was that? That was the global financial crisis. And due to the global financial crisis in 2007, guys, in 2008, this forum for the economic cooperation, in which only the finance ministers and the central bank governors were the part of it, this particular G20 was elevated. It was designated as in which it included the head of the states and head of the governments, and that's what when this G20 was being created as a premium forum for the international economic cooperation. So when I talk about this G20, earlier it was only catering about the economic cooperation, but later on in 2008 it expanded to other areas. What are those different areas? These areas are environment, climate change, then we have peace, we have agriculture. So it basically expanded to other important areas which were also impacting the economy, and as a result it was created into the G20. So you can see here the flags of the 20 countries who are the members of it, and this is the next thing that we are going to discuss in the session, that is what are the different members of the G20 group. Let me tell you that there are total of the 19 countries and one group, that is European Union, which is the part of the G20. For example, you can see here it comprises of Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Canada, China, France, Germany, India, Indonesia, Italy, Japan, Mexico, UK, Turkey, South Africa, Saudi Arabia, Russia, Republic of Korea, USA, and the other one, the last one, that is a group which is the European Union. So guys, basically you can see that this particular group has 20 members, but let me tell you that there are some guest countries as well which are the part of the G20 group. And what are the name of these guest countries? These can be seen on the screen: the Bangladesh, Egypt, Mauritius, Netherlands, Nigeria, Oman, UAE, Spain, and Singapore. So guys, these are basically the total members of the G20. We have seen that there are 20 G20 members and there are guest countries which are 9 in total numbers. So guys, I hope that this point is very much clear to all of you. Now, when I talk about the presidency, I told you that India has got the presidency for the G20 for this particular year. But guys, let me tell you that from the year 2023, India has got the G20 presidency. But from which country India take this presidency? It was basically transferred from Indonesia to India. And the next year, the country which will be getting the presidency from India, that will be Brazil. And guys, that's how it basically together forms the concept of the Troika. Let me tell you that as a part of this G20 Troika, the country which was having the presidency in the previous year, having the presidency in the current year, and having the presidency in the next year, so they together form this Troika and they support these G20 presidency, which is going to conduct all the things, all the agendas, which is going to bring all the G20 agendas to one common platform, that is called G20. And guys, now when I talk about this G20 presidency, as I told you, it steers the G20 agenda for 1 year and it hosts the summit. Let me tell you that this is basically in the place of rotating presidency, as we have seen that Indonesia से ये presidency गई India के पास, from India it transferred to the Brazil in year 2024. So guys, that is the most important point. Now, why exactly G20 is such a very important thing, important block? The reason behind that is it represents around 85% of the global GDP. When I talk about the other important things, it presents over 75% of the global trade, and it also constitutes about 2/3 of the world population. That is why it is one of the very influential groups which is present across the world. The name is G20. So guys, when I talk about this year India has got the G20 presidency, and the theme for the India's G20 presidency is Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, one earth, one family and one future. See guys, let me tell you that this G20 is really a very important thing, because this is the time when India has received the presidency of the G20, and many summits, all the events have been taken place in India under the presidency of G20. Let me tell you that this marking India's G20 presidency, this also marks the period of Amrit Kal for India, which represents the 25 years of the period starting from 75th anniversary of India's independence on 15th of August. And guys, that is what a very important thing about us. And India has got this particular presidency. Now let's move on to other important details about the G20. So G20 is basically having 2 parallel tracks, and these are finance track and the Sherpa track. Let me tell you that finance track is basically for the economic cooperation, and this finance track is being led by the finance ministers and the central bank governors of the member countries. Apart from that, let me tell you that this finance track is mainly led by the finance ministry. When I talk about the Sherpas from the member countries basically involves in other events, and when I talk about India's Sherpa for the G20, it is Mr. Amitabh Kant, who is presently the G20 Sherpa for India, and he is also the former chairperson, the former CEO of Niti Aayog. So that is another important thing you have to remember. But let me tell you that apart from these 2 parallel tracks, we have also the third pillar, that is the engagement groups, which brings us all the other parliamentarians, civil societies and other members of the countries, which brings together and discuss about the other important details about other different areas which are under the agenda of G20. So guys, now let's move on to the summits. The most important thing is the G20 Summit. Can you tell me that in which particular place the very first summit of the G20 was being held? Can anybody tell me that in the comment section, in the chat box, that when did, in which country this particular first G20 summit was being held? So guys, it was basically held in Washington DC. So the first summit of the G20 was held in Washington DC. This point can also be asked in the exam. Now let's move on to the summit which is going to take place in India, and that is in the New Delhi Leaders Summit, which is going to take place in September 9 to 10 in year 2023. And guys, this is the day, this is the summit in which all the events will culminate, which has happened across the year, different places in our country under the India's G20 presidency, and this will conclude with the G20 declaration which will be adopted by all the countries which are the member of the G20. Now guys, there is a question for all of you, a homework question for all of you. As I told you that India's G20 Sherpa is Mr. Amitabh Kant. You have to tell me who is the chief coordinator of G20 for India for this particular year. Please tell me that, all of you. This is a homework question for all of you. Tell me that who is the chief coordinator of G20 for this India's G20 presidency. So guys, I hope that these much details are very much clear to all of you. As I told you that there are a lot of events, there are a lot of summits which are going to take place under the India's presidency. But guys, when I talk about what are the major priority issues which are being catered under the India's G20 presidency, these are growth and prosperity, resilient global value chains, micro, small and medium enterprises, logistics, and the World Trade Organization reforms. So these are the 5 priority issues that have been catered under the India's G20 presidency. And I can see here that yes, you guys have really got this point. Now, as I was talking about the different events, so what is the best way of covering these different events which have been taken place under the India's G20 presidency? The best way to cover them is to club them together so that we can see that what exactly the event was and what is the place where it was held. So guys, in this particular slides, upcoming slides, we will be discussing all these details, all these events which have been conducted under India's G20 presidency. So guys, here you can see the most important summits under India's G20 presidency. The very first one was the first Sherpa meeting of India's G20 presidency, which was held in the Raja's place, that is Rajasthan. Moving on to the next priority area, that is of health. So India's first health group meeting under the G20 presidency, it was held in Thiruvananthapuram, Kerala. Inception meeting of the Business 20, it was held in Gandhinagar, Gujarat. We all know the business capital, the business state of the country, it is Gujarat. Gujarat is being called such kind of with that name. And guys, the inception meeting of Business 20 was held in Gujarat. When I talk about the first Global Tourism Summit, it was held in New Delhi. First meeting of Employment Working Group was held in Rajasthan. Inception meeting of the Startup 20. See guys, this is some initiative which has been started under the India's G20 presidency only, and where it was held in Telangana. When I talk about the first G20 Education Working Group meeting, it was held in Chennai, Tamil Nadu. First G20 Environment and Climate Sustainability Working Group was held in Bengaluru, Karnataka. First Agriculture Deputies meeting of Agriculture Working Groups, it was held in Indore, Madhya Pradesh. First Y20 Inception meeting was held in IIT Guwahati, Assam. First G20 Working Group meeting was held in Rann of Kutch in the Indian state of Gujarat. So my dear friends, it is very, very important for all of you to cover all these summits which are being taken place, and you have to remember the venue of these particular summits, because the questions on these lines are really expected in all the exams which are going to take place this year. So let me tell you that this is not just important for the RBI Grade B officer exam. The exam for which you are preparing, the question on G20 can be asked in that exam as well. Now let's move on to the other important events, which includes the first meeting of G20 Digital Economy Working Group. It was held in Lucknow, Uttar Pradesh. First meeting of finance ministers and central bank governors was held in Bengaluru, Karnataka. First meeting of the working group of G20 was held in Khajuraho, Madhya Pradesh. Women's 20 inception meeting was held in Aurangabad, Maharashtra. first anti-corruption group meeting was held in Gurugram, Haryana. And there is another important detail that you have to remember from that this meeting regarding the anti-corruption working group, it was co-chaired by which country? It was co-chaired by Italy. Moving on to the next important meet, it is the first G20 Trade and Investment Group working group. It was held in Maharashtra. Labour 20 Engagement Inception meet was held in Amritsar, Punjab. First meeting of G20 Science Advisors Roundtable was held in Ramnagar, Uttarakhand. G20 Tourism Expo was held in Rajasthan. And the most important G20 meet that you have to remember, and that is the 100th G20 meet, which is really probable to be asked in the exam, and it is going to be, and it was held in Varanasi, Uttar Pradesh. So guys, I believe that all these particular G20 meets which are being conducted under the presidency of India, they are really very important, and you have to remember their locations as well as the name of the event which was taken under the India's G20 presidency. So guys, I hope that these details are very much clear to all of you. Now you must be thinking that what exactly are the other unique points which are regarding the G20 presidency of India, and this includes the first meeting of G20 Chief Science Advisors Roundtable, which was held in Ramnagar, Uttarakhand. And guys, this is a flagship event which has been started only under the India's G20 presidency. I am marking the star here because this is one such event which has been started under the presidency of India only. Okay, so what were the four themes? The four themes for this particular event has been mentioned for all of you. You guys can go through them. It is one of the opportunity in the One Health for Better Disease Control, synergizing global efforts to expand access to scholarly scientific knowledge, diversity, equity, inclusion and accessibility, and institutional mechanism for inclusive, continuous and action-oriented global S&T policy dialogue. Now guys, there is a very important homework for all of you, and that homework is, there was also another initiative which was launched under the India's G20 presidency, and the name of that initiative is Maharishi Initiative. So this is the homework for all of you. You have to tell me under the comment section of this session, please tell me about the details of the Maharishi Initiative which was being launched under the India's G20 presidency. Now guys, we will be moving towards the other important the other important summits and conferences which have taken place in this particular year. Now you must be having a question that what kind of summits and conferences we are required to cover. The most important ones are those in which India is a member, in which India is basically participating in it, and those kind of conferences, summits we are going to cover in the today's session. So guys, let's move on to the other part. So the very first summit is the SCO Summit. Let me tell you that recently Ministry of External Affairs has announced that India is going to host the virtual summit. India is going to host the annual summit of SCO virtually in the month of July 2023. तो जुलाई 2023 के अंदर SCO की एनुअल समिट को इंडिया वर्चुअली होस्ट करने वाला है. दैट इज द अनदर इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट, एंड दैट इज व्हाई इट इज रिक्वायर्ड टू बी कवर्ड, एंड दैट इज द रीजन दैट SCO की डिटेल्स आपको बहुत अच्छे से पता होनी चाहिए. SCO which was established in 2001, it is having two permanent bodies, the Secretariat in Beijing, China, and Executive Committee of the Regional Anti-Terrorist Structure in Tashkent, Uzbekistan. जब हम बात करते हैं members की, the members for the SCO are, there are 8 full-time members, 4 observer states and 14 dialogue partners. When we talk about the presidency of the SCO, so guys, in the 2022 the presidency was with Uzbekistan, but in India 2023 summit as India is going to host, so presidency is with India for the year 2023. And what is the theme for the summit? The theme for the summit will be Secure SCO. Now let me tell you another important point about this particular SCO, that India along with Pakistan became the full-time member of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization in year 2017. So India became the full-time member of SCO in year 2017 along with the Pakistan. So I hope that this summit is very much clear to all of you. The SCO block is very much clear to all of you. अब बढ़ते हैं अगली important news की तरफ, that is the United Nations Statistical Commission. So guys, why it is required to be covered? Because India has been elected as the member of the following subsidiary bodies of the United Nations Economic and Social Council. And what are these organizations? These are UN Statistical Commission, and guys, India was a member of the Statistical Commission last in 2004. Then we have the Commission on the Narcotic Drugs. We have the Program Coordinating Board of the Joint UN Program on the HIV/AIDS. So guys, that is why these kind of organizations, these kind of blocks and the India related details are required to be covered from the exam point of view. Moving on to the next block, that is the G7. So guys, the venue of the G7 meet for this year was Japan. Japan has hosted the G7 meet for this particular year. And who are the participating countries? You can see here G7 countries and invited outreach for countries. That's where India's role starts. So India was along with other countries like Indonesia, Vietnam and Thailand. So guys, when we talk about the G7, G7 is another intergovernmental organization. It was founded in 1975. The G7 countries are which countries? UK, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan and the US. So these are the most important details you have to remember about the G7. Now let's move on to the next important summit, the Forum for the India Pacific Island. So guys, third summit for the Forum for India Pacific Island Cooperation took place. And what was the venue of that particular thing? What was the venue of that particular meet? The venue for that meet was in the Papua New Guinea. So guys, it is basically a bloc which was formed in year 2014, and it is a multinational grouping for cooperation between India and other 14 Pacific Island nations. So these are the most important things you have to remember. See, what are the dimensions here? First of all, you have to remember the establishment year, what are the different members, where the annual summit was being held. These are the details that you have to remember from the exam point of view. Moving on to the next part, Indo-Pacific Economic Framework for Prosperity. That is the thing which was there in the news. See guys, the second Indo-Pacific Framework for Prosperity ministerial meet was held in USA. So USA is the name of the country which has hosted this particular meet. And when I talk about this particular bloc, it was launched in 2022. It was launched and led by United States of America. So guys, when I talk about the number of members here, there are 14 members. There is no need to cover all these 14 members. But the important thing is that India is a member for this particular bloc. When I talk about this bloc is having 4 pillars. What are those 4 pillars? These are trade, supply chains, clean energy, decarbonization and infrastructure, and the fair economy. So these are the 4 pillars under this particular IPEF framework. So guys, it is not a kind of free trade agreement, a very important point. See guys, from these particular part, a statement based question can also be asked in the exam. That is why these details are required to be covered thoroughly from the exam point of view. Now let's move on to the next part. So we have the next part is the Asian Pacific Postal Union, and this is for the first time that India is leading an international organization in the postal sector. So that is the first time India is leading international organization in the postal sector. That is why this particular topic is really very important from the exam point of view. You can see here that Dr. Vinay Prakash Singh, the Postal Services Board, has took over the Secretary General of the Asian Pacific Postal Union for a period of 4 years. The name of this person is very important, and you have to really know about the Asia Pacific Postal Union, which was launched in 1961. Total members are 38. But where is the headquarter of this postal union? The headquarter is in the Bangkok, Thailand. So guys, these details you have to cover from the exam point of view. We have discussed all the important details regarding this particular block. Now that was all from the today's session. So guys, I believe that this particular details are very much clear to all of you. And guys, apart from that, let me tell you that these summits and conferences, they are really very important, and these are being asked in the exam. The most important thing was the G20 part. We have covered the G20 part in our session. Every important point related to the G20 and other organizations in which India is member to them, and India has participated in it, and these particular blocks have the annual meet held in this particular year. So what exactly are the blocks are, what are their members, what is the establishment year, what is the headquarters, all these details you are required to cover from the exam point of view. So guys, if you are having any kind of queries, all of you are requested to post your queries in the comment section, and I will be answering your queries regarding the today's session. So I can see here that Sate is saying, sir, PDF will be provided, right? Absolutely right. Do not worry, guys. For the PDF, you are required to join our Telegram channel, from which all the PDF of the sessions that we conduct on the YouTube can be downloaded. And if you are still new to our YouTube channel, kindly subscribe to the bell icon and press the bell icon to receive all the latest updates of the courses and videos offered by us. And you can join our Telegram channel in case you want the PDF of these particular sessions. So guys, thank you for joining us, and I really believe that you guys have really liked this particular session. And you have to tell me now in the comment section that if a question on these summits and conferences are being asked in the exam, will you be able to answer them correctly in the exam? Tell me that in the chat box. So there is another important person who says, make playlist, sir, all videos are here and there. So we have noted down your query, Nishan. Do not worry, we will be making it, although we have already made the playlist, and this particular video will also be a part of one of the playlists. Do not worry about it. So I can see here that there are no more queries here in this particular chat box. So guys, thank you for joining us, and I believe that you must have liked this particular session. We'll meet you in the next session. Till then, stay happy, stay healthy. Wish you all happy learning.